Hello there guys, it's Joey, and this video is going to be musing on silence and transition periods to personal transformation within the sort of witchy psyche, my psyche. The importance of silence as known in the witch's pyramid, and it sort of explains where I'm at and what I'm thinking, and following the path and energy process that I'm going through right now, as well as musing over the concepts and thinking out loud, really. So for the last few days I've been quite quiet, and I do this frequently. It freaks people out sometimes as well, and I found it very interesting because it's something which within the process of personal healing leading on to transformation I've always found is a necessary part. It's sort of the pause, the breath, the silence, and really it's about mulling over, integrating, musing over, digesting everything that you have gone through in a period of activity, in this case the healing work, and then sort of processing that all before moving forward with it into the transformation work. So it's sort of the breath between. I think in modern times quite frequently a lot of us are really freaked out by the idea of complete silence and time completely on our own, or even not being completely on our own but just in our own heads, and spending some time really reflecting on ourselves, our flaws, our failings, how best to overcome that, as well as the sort of personal mirroring of confronting things that are not serving you and that you need to release, and things which are not helpful, and not to you, not to anybody else within your sphere of influence. And it can be quite a difficult thing, a difficult period of a silent transformation, silent transition into change. I find with my practice that periods of silence are actually necessary. I wonder if it's something to do with the Morrigan in a way, because she's the silent watcher. So she has these periods of stepping back and evaluating and watching, and as you continue with your path, or my path at least, in the light of the Morrigan, then you start to follow suit, as it were, and take stock of everything. And for me it's often really necessary for moments of clarity. If things have been bugging me, or having a unwanted emotional effect, affecting healing and not allowing me to heal, becoming a blockage in some way or other, then periods of silence can actually be really helpful to step back and analyse. It could be quite a Virgo thing as well, thinking about it, but it really feels to me that it's necessary to take time off as well. And so my periods of silence tend to be sort of twofold. On one hand, it's actually quite engaged with spirituality, because it is a moment of silence, of pause, of stepping away, of evaluating, of figuring situations out. And then on the other hand, it can be good to just step away from everything for a little while, and that's kind of like a refresher thing. It's like if you're becoming lethargic, or if you need to reconnect to a sense of excitement about spirituality and path seeking and learning and knowledge and things, then I think it's really important to perhaps have time out away from that and just sort of dissolve into mundane things a little bit, so that when you come back again, it's not complete abandonment obviously, but a little sort of sidestep. So when you embrace again with spirituality, it's even more exciting, and even it feels new and refreshed. It's like a little rebirthing process, to not get spiritual burnout. I think it's one of the ways in which I cope with spiritual burnout, to the point where I recognise symptoms of feeling lethargic and fed up, and in my case depression, and then having these sort of moments and pauses can really help with the avoidance of spiritual burnout. So it's sort of taking time out to just do whatever. In my case it's gameplay or other bits and pieces, and just dissolve into something else for a little while, not becoming lost in that process, but accepting it as a time out sort of thing, a moment of silence in an otherwise vocal spiritual path. I'm particularly vocal in all of my spiritual path, with regards to, you know, sharing online, talking, singing, humming, etc. So moments of silence can actually be really beneficial, as they sort of punctuate between points of spiritual path walking. They like the full stop, but not the end, or even the comma, if you prefer that analogy, within terms of literature anyway. And it's just sort of and taking it into yourself to just breathe and feel better. Within the process of healing into transformation as well, healing can be quite a tiresome, grueling process. A lot of us sort of look at healing work and we're thinking along the lines, and you look at it on the surface and you think, oh, it seems such a pleasing, pleasant, gentle, calming thing to do, and you think about the colours associated with healing magic, even, you know, your blues and your greens and your soothings, and you look at the candles and the herbs and everything on the surface of it, and it looks like healing magic is a pretty peaceful thing to do, but actually it can be a really difficult thing to do, because you're really self-examining, you're clearing out blockages, and that can be difficult because they can have all sorts of nasty roots, and that you have to sort of literally go down into yourself and prune where these things are coming from, whether it be a spiritual blockage or emotional blockage, a mental blockage. It depends on what you're actually looking at healing, obviously, so the subject is vast. But when you're looking at things that are stopping you from being who you want to be, the best person you want to be, it's actually a really tiring process. And you have to be careful when you suffer with depression in particular, but for anybody, that you don't fall into the self-blame trap, the self-hate trap even, that you make yourself feel worse about yourself because these things are there, you know, and you feel like you failed rather than it's something that needs healing and addressing. It's learning to be your own best friend, it's learning to be kind, whilst also learning to be your own cheerleader, promote the change that you know is necessary, and not rest on your laurels and not stay stuck. But healing work for the most part is really quite difficult, because you have to find that balance. You have to find the balance between promoting and rest. So it has to be how much of the healing has to be taking care of yourself, being gentle with yourself, rest up and stepping away a little bit, versus how much of it has to be proactive. What do I need to change? How do I need to do this? How do I need to figure this out? What do I need to be engaging with? Where do I go from here? Which tools of divination am I going to use to figure it all out? Or sit and talk to myself, sit and muse with the notions of these things, as well as connecting to the divine and asking them for clarity, clarification. And if you work with a goddess like the Morrigan, she's not always forthcoming with that. She may be like, figure it out. And that in itself is tiring on a lot of people, myself included. And so times of pause, times of silence, in allowing us to transition between the really difficult process of healing versus moving forward into personal transformation, which in itself is another difficult process. we say these things as if, we should be able to do them and that's it, and a lot of people talk about personal transformation as if it's an easy road, and I don't think that real change in any sense is ever particularly easy. And I came across a quote, and I've forgotten who it's by, it might be Osho, I'm not sure, and it's about you will be faced with the same difficulty until it no longer bothers you, until you've overcome it. And I was looking at this recently in terms of things that upset me and bother me and cut me to the quick, if you like, and realizing there are multiple solutions to problems that arise that need healing, but finding the best one rather than the correct one, because there is no correct answer in particular, but the best one for you as a person to help you push through and evolve, is also, as always, the most difficult. So I often say that throughout life, particularly life with a Morrigan, you often get presented a choice, and the choice goes what is easy or what is right. And that sounds pretty simplified, but I think it's really the essence, the duality of a lot of challenges that the Morrigan in particular throws into path seekers' way to make them figure out what is the easy path versus what is the right path. And sometimes it's not as cut and dry as you think, because the easy path can seem like the more complicated one. But if the complicated one is more about self-indulgence and not overcoming the problem, then that's not the correct path, if you like. It's the easy path. Even though on the surface of it, it might not seem like an easy route to take. I personally think periods of silence as well are really healthy. We are living in a modern world where everybody's thought processes can be out there at all times if they so desire, leading to all sorts of problems, leading to all sorts of confrontations and to thoughts and things that should perhaps have been considered a little bit more before being put out there into the world. We have such power with how we speak. Our words have power because they have energy behind them, and as spiritual people, witches, however you wish to define yourself, we should be even more aware of the power of what we say and how it becomes a reflection of who we are. What we talk about, what we allow ourselves to go on and on and on about, can often come to define who we are as people, and it can often embroil us in a personal battle, because you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, and then it starts to have more consequence than you thought, and you get to the point where you're like, I don't want this to become a defining attribute of who I am. And you have to figure out along the lines, like, what is worth speaking up for, and make the choice. And I fully believe in that process, that if something needs to be said, if something you feel it in your heart and your gut and every instinct's like, I need to speak out about this, then you kind of have to know when it's your own ego versus when it is something that must and should be done. Usually, if the easy distinction is, if you feel that you must do it, that in your heart process whether or not it's because you're feeling egotistical about it, it's coming from a place of ego, of being self-serving, versus you really need to speak out about this because it has wider implications, and that it could be harming you and others. It's a very difficult line. and one that can take a lifetime to sort of really evaluate, like, does something, what is the motivation for speaking out? To help or to harm, I guess, is at the very core of a lot of things. And moments of silence can really help us to figure out who we are along that process. About becoming too over-involved in certain situations throughout life, all sorts of different situations throughout life, and moments of silence and stepping back and seeing the over energy and the over theme and the over patterns and the webs and things that are going on, and then trying to discern the lesson that's coming for you. Are you being taught a lesson over and over and over again until you get through it and push on to the next period of transformation? I've had lots of little lessons which has actually led to me coming to terms with one of the biggest lessons of something that's happened to me on multiple occasions, and it always really hurts my heart and then requires healing afterwards. And it's coming to the point of personal transformation, of figuring out who I want to be and what I want to allow or not, and how to be a good person around that process, which is vague, but then that's my personal process to be digesting, if you like, and has nothing to do with anybody else. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to muse over, really. Periods of silence, periods of transition before transformation is where I'm at, is what I'm going through. It's why I haven't been as vocal. Sometimes I need to hermit a bit, and I've learnt that if these things are necessary for personal well-being, then there's no point apologising for them, because it's just part of who you are and part of what you need, and that's okay. I think we apologise too much for needing a little bit of personal reflection, a little bit of me time. So that's it for this video. Many blessings.